The hangar lights buzzed softly over the concrete floor, reflecting off rows of silent aircraft. A man in a worn janitor's uniform pushed his mop across the spotless surface, humming quietly to himself. His name tag simply read, Evan. No one paid much attention to him anymore, not the young sailors rushing by, not the officers discussing flight drills. To most, he was invisible, a quiet single dad who swept the hangars and took out the trash. But there was something about the way Evan moved, calm, precise, and oddly familiar to those who had seen real action. That morning, the Navy base was alive with tension. 3 high-ranking admirals had flown in for an inspection, men known for their iron discipline and unshakable pride. The aircrew scrambled to prepare the lineup, uniforms crisp, aircraft spotless. And there, in the corner, was Evan, leaning on his mop as he quietly watched a group of young pilots trying to fix a stubborn fuel line. One of the admirals, a tall man with silver hair and cold eyes, noticed him. "You there," he called out, his voice echoing. "Janitor, yeah, you. You ever fly one of these things?" The room went silent. The young pilots looked away, nervous. Evan just smiled faintly and shook his head. "I used to," he said quietly, returning to his work. The admirals exchanged amused looks. "Used to, huh?" Another one said with a smirk. "What was your call sign, son?" "Mop man." "Custodian 1. The hangar filled with low chuckles. Evan paused, eyes distant for a moment, like a man remembering something buried deep beneath layers of pain and time. Then he simply said, "Valor Phantom." The laughter stopped. For a second, no one breathed. The admirals froze, because that name wasn't just a call sign. It was a legend. A ghost story told among fighter pilots. Valor Phantom, the ace who led the unmarked rescue mission over Kuna Valley, when 6 pilots were trapped behind enemy lines. The man who flew an F-A-18 with one engine gone and both wings torn, who refused to eject until his squadron was safe. The man everyone thought had died in that storm of fire and metal 10 years ago. "Impossible," whispered the youngest admiral. "Valor Phantom died." Evan looked up, eyes calm and tired. "That's what they told me too." The silence was heavy now. You could hear the distant hum of a generator, the faint clink of tools. Then a voice broke the stillness, one of the young mechanics, staring wide-eyed. "Sir, this guy saved my dad. My dad was in that squadron." The admirals stood still, their authority crumbling under the weight of truth. Evan's uniform was old and faded, but his eyes carried something no metal could show, the weight of lives saved, and lives lost. He'd come back broken. His wife hadn't waited. His little boy had been his only reason to stay alive. So he took a job as a janitor near the hangars, because even though he couldn't fly anymore, being near the planes made him feel whole. The eldest admiral finally spoke, his voice softer now. "Why didn't you tell anyone who you were?" Evan shrugged, leaning on his mop. "Because rank fades, medals rust. But doing right by people, that lasts. My son doesn't care what I was. He just wants me home." The admirals exchanged looks, men who'd spent lifetimes chasing rank and glory, and suddenly, they felt small before this quiet, humble man. Later that afternoon, a commotion stirred near the tarmac. A test flight had gone wrong. A rookie pilot lost control of an F-A-18 during landing. Flames burst from one wing, the aircraft spinning dangerously. Ground control yelled for evacuation. But before anyone could react, Evan was already sprinting toward the blaze. People screamed, "You'll get yourself killed." He didn't hear them. Or maybe he didn't care. The world around him blurred into noise and wind. The canopy jammed, the young pilot trapped. Evan grabbed a fire extinguisher and leapt onto the burning fuselage, smashing at the glass until it shattered. Smoke burned his lungs, his arms blistered, but he pulled the pilot free just as the jet exploded behind them. When the medics arrived, Evan was coughing, his uniform torn, but his first words were simple: "He's alive." That's what matters. The admirals stood there, stunned, watching the man they'd mocked kneel beside the rescued pilot, comforting him like a father would his son. That evening, as the sun set over the base, the admirals called an emergency assembly. Every officer, mechanic, and pilot stood in line. And before them, the eldest admiral walked up to Evan with trembling hands and saluted. "Valor Phantom," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "On behalf of the United States Navy, welcome home." The hangar erupted in applause. Some wept. Some saluted through tears. Evan's son, a boy no older than 10, ran across the floor and threw his arms around his father. Dad, are you a hero? Evan smiled, tears shining in his eyes. No, son. I'm just someone who didn't give up. As the cameras rolled, the crowd chanting, Valor Phantom, the screen faded to black, the final message appearing in bold white letters. True valor isn't about medals or ranks. It's about never giving up on who you are, or who you love.